The air in your lungs contains two mistakes from the 1900s, both invented by the same engineer. One put lead into billions of bodies. The other punched a hole in the sky. And to understand how this happened, let's travel back. It's the 30th of October, 1924. A crowd of journalists gathered in Dayton, Ohio. They were there to witness a demonstration by a man named Thomas Midgley Jr., a brilliant and charismatic engineer. In front of him was a beaker filled with a clear, volatile liquid. The air was thick with rumors of death and madness surrounding this very substance. To quell the growing public fear, Midgley did something unthinkable. He poured the liquid over his hands, rubbing it into his skin. Then, he lifted the open beaker to his face and, for a full 60 seconds, inhaled its fumes deeply. He turned to the reporters smiling. The substance, he declared, was perfectly safe. What he didn't tell them was that he himself was suffering from lead poisoning, and that the chemical he was breathing would go on to poison the air of every city on Earth for the next 70 years. To understand why a man would knowingly inhale poison, you first need to understand a problem that plagued the early 20th century: engine knock. In the 1910s, cars were the future, but their engines were holding them back. When fuel burned unevenly, it created a violent, uncontrolled shock wave inside the engine's cylinders, a metallic pinging sound called knocking. This wasn't just an annoying noise. It wasted fuel, reduced power, and could literally destroy the engine from the inside out. The auto industry, led by giants like General Motors, was desperate for a solution. They needed a chemical additive that could make gasoline burn smoothly. The company that could solve engine knock wouldn't just make a fortune, it would unlock the future of transportation. This was the puzzle handed to Thomas Midgley Jr. Working in a lab at General Motors, Midgley began a relentless search. He and his team tested thousands of chemical compounds one by one. For years, they found nothing. Then in 1921, they tried a compound called tetraethyl lead, or TEL. The results were instantaneous and miraculous. Just a few drops added to a gallon of gasoline completely eliminated engine knock. The engine ran quieter, cooler, and with more power than ever before. It was the magic bullet the entire industry had been praying for. General Motors, along with Standard Oil, created a new company to produce the additive, the Ethyl Corporation. But there was a dark secret hiding in plain sight. Lead was a well-known neurotoxin. Almost immediately after production began at a new DuPont facility in Deepwater, New Jersey, workers started to get sick. They became unsteady, suffered hallucinations, and descended into violent insanity. They called it the House of Butterflies, for the insects the dying men imagined were fluttering around them. Within the first 2 months of operation, 5 workers died, and dozens more were hospitalized. The public outcry was fierce. News headlines questioned the safety of loony gas. This is when Midgley, now a vice president at Ethyl, was called in to manage the crisis. The press conference where he inhaled the fumes was a calculated piece of corporate theater. It worked. Backed by a government that prioritized industrial progress, and with Midgley's proof of its safety, leaded gasoline was approved. The deaths were dismissed as the cost of progress, a result of mishandling the substance, not the substance itself. The first poison had been successfully unleashed, having solved the gasoline problem and secured the future of the automobile. Midgley was celebrated as a hero of industry. His employer, General Motors, now had a new, seemingly unrelated problem for him to solve. Refrigerators in the 1920s were incredibly dangerous. They relied on toxic and flammable gases like ammonia and sulfur dioxide. A leak could be, and often was, fatal. The world needed a new kind of refrigerant, something non-toxic, non-flammable, and stable. Once again, the industry turned to Thomas Midgley. Midgley approached the problem with his signature flair. In less than a year, he identified a new class of chemicals, chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. The first one he commercialized was dichlorodifluoromethane, which the company branded as Freon. To prove its safety, Midgley staged another dramatic demonstration at a 1930 chemical conference. In a scene mirroring his leaded gas stunt, he took a deep breath of the colorless, odorless gas, but this time, he exhaled it slowly across a lit candle. The flame went out. He had proven, in one theatrical gesture, that Freon was both breathable and non-flammable. It was another miracle. Freon and other CFCs took over the world. They were used in everything from refrigerators and air conditioners to aerosol sprays and industrial solvents. They were seen as one of the safest and most useful chemical inventions in history. For 50 years, no one suspected a thing. The danger this time wasn't immediate and visceral like lead poisoning. It was silent, invisible, and global. The reveal came in the 1970s. Scientists discovered that CFCs, being incredibly stable, didn't break down in the lower atmosphere. Instead, they drifted slowly upwards into the stratosphere. There, UV radiation would finally break them apart, releasing chlorine atoms. And a single chlorine atom could act as a catalyst, setting off a chain reaction that destroyed up to 100,000 ozone molecules. The miracle chemical was tearing a hole in the Earth's protective shield, exposing the entire planet to dangerous levels of ultraviolet radiation. Midgley's second poison was, in many ways, far more insidious than his first. Thomas Midgley would never live to see the full consequences of his second great invention. In 1940, at the age of 51, he contracted polio, which left him severely disabled. Ever the inventor, he designed an elaborate system of ropes and pulleys to help lift him out of bed. On November 2, 1944, he became entangled in the device and was strangled to death by his own invention. It's a tragically ironic end for a man whose life is a study in unintended consequences. Midgley's inventions solved the immediate problems they were designed for, and they did so brilliantly. But they did it by ignoring the long-term, systemic effects. Leaded gasoline poisoned the bodies of generations, while Freon poisoned the very atmosphere. The story of Thomas Midgley Jr. isn't just about one man. It's a story about a particular kind of 20th century ambition, a belief that any problem could be solved with a clever enough invention, without regard for the world outside the machine. It leaves us with a question we still wrestle with today. How do we measure the true cost of a miracle?